Breaking news tonight in the Nolan Wells investigation. Enhanced distress call audio bombshell. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace.
Before anything else, I want to set the rule for this video because this is the kind of case where people lose the plot within about 90 seconds. Everything I say here comes from one of 4 places. The audio that was officially released, the statements the people involved made on camera themselves, the family's attorneys and their independent pathologist, or the reporting on the investigation. I am not accusing anybody of anything. Nobody has been charged with anything. What I am doing is laying the record next to itself and pointing at the places where it does not line up. And it does not line up. That is the entire story here. Let's start with the audio, because that is where this segment starts, and that is where most of the internet has parked itself for weeks now. What is actually on that call is not in dispute. Somebody on that boat rings a marine assistance line. He says they are at the west tip of the island. He says the bilge pump has stopped working. He says they are sinking. The dispatcher does what a dispatcher does. She asks how high the water is. She asks for a description. She asks for a membership number. And he cannot give her much. He does not know the water level. He does not know the phone number on the account. He knows they are going down. That is a person on the water in a bad moment, and taken by itself, it sounds like exactly what it says it is. The reason it has become the center of this case is what people say they can hear underneath it. There is a claim that behind the voice on the phone, you can hear other people on that boat saying his name and asking if he is dead. And once somebody has told you that is what is in there, your brain will find it. That is not a criticism of anybody. That is how audio works. It is called priming, and it is the same reason a badly recorded song lyric becomes something completely different the moment somebody types the wrong words underneath it. Now here is where I have to be straight with you, even though I know it is not what a lot of people watching want to hear. The versions of that audio circulating with the background, supposedly cleaned up and boosted, are not verified. Enhancement is not magic. When you push gain into a noisy recording, you are not revealing hidden information. You are amplifying whatever is already there, including hiss, wind, engine noise, compression artifacts from the phone line, and everything the codec threw away before the file was ever saved. Consonants get invented. Syllables appear out of nothing. That is not a conspiracy, that is just the physics of a compressed phone recording. So when I say the background is unverified, I am not saying nothing is there. I am saying nobody listening on a phone speaker, including me, is qualified to tell you what is there. That is a job for a forensic audio examiner working from the original source file, and until that has been done and published, anybody telling you they know for certain what those voices are saying is telling you about their confidence, not about the evidence. And that brings us to the pushback in the segment, which deserves a fair hearing whether you like where it lands or not. The argument is that the background claim is impossible on timing grounds. If people on that boat are already speaking about Nolan being dead at the moment of that call, that would require them to know something that, according to every witness account given, had not happened yet. The counter-argument offered is that the words could be about something else entirely. On a boat that is taking on water, you have engines, pumps, phones, and electronics, and people absolutely do shout about whether something is dead, meaning it has stopped working.
This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us.
He was face down on the beach right at the water's edge.
If he was sent face down, that also doesn't make sense to me. If he's face down, wouldn't blood pool just by nature of gravity this way?
So right now we've got a lot of questions, but as the second doctor says, this is all still pending investigation.
If this were your child, wouldn't you want to know what happened?
Detail assistance, Vicky speaking. How can I help you?
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership.
All right, of course. How far is the water coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Ankles?
What'd
Hello?
you say? Hey,
Yes, how far is the water coming up, sir?
it's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down now.
What did we just hear? What was that? One more time, please.
Detail assistance, Vicky speaking. How can I help you?
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership.
All right, of course. How far is the water coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Ankles?
What'd
Hello?
you say? Hey,
Yes, how far is the water coming up, sir?
it's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down now.
Straight out to investigative reporter Crime Stories, Dave Mack. Did you just hear what I heard? Now, this has been transcribed, and this is the C-TOW dispatch call. Because, Dave, when I first heard this, I thought, has this been doctored? Is this real? Where's this coming from, Dave?
Nancy, this is coming from from Mississippi, from the actual official. Okay, when we get into the Mississippi Fish and Wildlife and at the reserve putting this out for the public, this is not like from Dave Mack's recording. This is an official recording, Nancy, that is being issued, and it's shocking when you listen to this call for a tow, for the C-TOW. Going further into it, Nancy, you're picking apart all of the different voices that can be heard on this one phone call, trying to determine what is really taking place on this boat that is allegedly sitting in 31 feet of water, a depth of 31 feet. And a bilge pump not working, claiming they're sinking, and calling for help. And yet, in the background, are we really hearing all of this other activity?
Guys, this was released from the MDMR, the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. Alexis Tereszczuk joining us out of LA, just joining us now, Crime Stories investigative reporter as well. Alexis, the transcription, I want you to listen to it, Alexis, as we play it again. This is obtained from the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. It's not something we just found on TikTok. Listen.
Detail assistance, Vicky speaking. How can I help you?
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership.
All right, of course. How far is the water coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Ankles?
What'd
Hello?
you say? Hey,
Yes, how far is the water coming up, sir?
it's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down now.
Okay, Alexis Tereszczuk, jump in.
So it sounds like before the woman starts talking, the operator, everyone in the background is saying, "Is he dead? Nolan, wake the up." And so they are concerned about Nolan. They're saying, literally, is he dead? Nobody has ever, none of the kids on this boat have ever admitted that anybody said that they thought Nolan was dead on the boat. This is the first time that we are hearing this.
What is the chance that this has been doctored in some way, Alexis Tereszczuk? Because circulating on the internet was a scene where another young man was face down being attacked on the sand. That was not Nolan Wells. That's not Nolan Wells. Repeat. So there are bottom feeders that are fabricating evidence and circulating it, and it's whipping up all sorts of hostility. But regarding this, have you listened to it independently of any transcription?
I have listened to it. I've listened to it over and over, and I've listened to the audio where it's only the sound of the boy calling in and not the operator's voice. So it takes a little bit of the distraction out, and you can just hear the voices, the one friend saying, "Is he dead?" And we are hearing somebody very worried. They're saying, "Is he dead?" Somebody, you think you might have heard them say Nolan right before that. Somebody then says, "Oh my God." So the thing is, there have been a lot of false videos. People have said there was a video where Nolan was screaming, saying, "Give me my phone back." His friend says, "No, that's me in the video." There have been tons of AI generated videos and images and things, but this is the official audio from the organization.
Okay, let's hear the audio to which you are referring. Listen. Now, it's my understanding, Dave Mack, that sound we just played is real sound. That is not doctored sound, but someone else claims that's them saying, "Give me my phone back." That is not Nolan Wells. Explain.
Well, Nancy, what we have is some friends that were also out on the boat trip out to Horn Island that were with Nolan Wells and were friends with Nolan Wells, claim that was him, that he was the one that was saying, "Give me my phone back," that it wasn't Nolan Wells. So we've got an identification from the person who says, "I was the one saying that. It wasn't Nolan Wells." And when you listen to the audio, Nancy, it does seem like it is not Nolan Wells saying, "Give me my phone back." It sounds like the guy claiming it.
Guys, a lot of confusion surrounding the audio that has been released by the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. This, as we are also learning about an offer made by the United Cajun Navy to Ben Crump, who is representing Nolan's family, to Todd Terrell joining us, the president of the Cajun Navy. Todd, thank you for being with us tonight. Todd, explain to me the offer that you guys made to Crump.
Well, first of all, I want to make sure that I really am specific about the words I use because I don't want things taken out of context. Me personally, as president of the United Cajun Navy, made a call to Mr. Crump and offering him our services for dogs, cadaver dogs and specific scent dogs. I never heard back from him. Our incident commander, Josh Gill, did speak to Liza Parks, I think he's one of his lead attorneys or whatever, and offered the services as well. The rumors about us talking to Mr. Crump, personally, I want to set the record straight. Nobody, myself, nor anyone from United Cajun Navy spoke personally to Mr. Crump. We did reach out and make an offer, but we did not hear back from him.
Okay. Much has been made of the offer to, was it cadaver dogs, scent dogs, or both, Todd?
It was both. It was cadaver dogs and specific scent dogs. And, some of this needs to be clarified.
Okay.
And we did make an offer, but we did not hear from him himself.
Gotcha. There's a lot of people on the team. So who is it that you said you guys contacted or spoke with?
Liza Park. And we have a phone record. Our guy, Josh Gill, my incident commander, on the 13th, left her a message. And on the 14th, they reached out to her. And I think got back, I think it was 9:51 on the 14th. There was a 23-minute call with Josh Gill, our incident commander, and Liza Park, who I believe is Mr. Crump's lead attorney. And so they knew well what we did, the credentials of the dogs, and what our specific offer was. So they knew it ahead of time.
To Marie Pereira joining us.
That is an ordinary sentence in that exact situation. The other point raised is proximity. The GPS coordinates at the time of that call put the boat effectively at the island, or extremely close to it, on a holiday, on a day when there are hundreds of people and dozens of boats in that water. The argument is that a violent commotion in that setting would have been seen by somebody. That is a reasonable point. I will also say it cuts both ways, because a crowded shoreline also means a lot of people who saw fragments of the day and nobody who saw all of it, which is exactly why 60 witnesses had to be interviewed to try to reconstruct a single afternoon. Then you have the account from the friend, and I want to handle this carefully. He says the last time he saw Nolan was sitting on the beach with a young woman he had met that day. He says when they were leaving, somebody on the boat called out for Nolan to get on, repeatedly, and Nolan refused and said he would ride back with somebody else. He says this is not unusual at that island, that people ride out with one group and back with another constantly, and that other people in their own group did exactly that the same day. And he says the young woman later sent a message the following day describing the same thing, that the last time she saw him was when he was being shouted at to get on the boat, and he did not. If you take that account at face value, it is internally consistent, and it explains the departure without anything sinister in it. There is a counterweight, though, and the segment includes it. Another person close to him told investigators that account did not sound like the person he knew, that he had never known him to split off from the group like that. That is not evidence of anything by itself. People do out-of-character things constantly, especially at that age, especially on a beach, especially when a girl is involved. But it is a genuine tension in the record, and it has been sitting there since day one. The harder problem is not the account, it is the clock. Dispatch confirms a call came in reporting the boat was taking on water. But GPS data pulled from that boat afterwards reportedly shows it did not actually leave the island until around 4:30 in the afternoon, roughly 30 minutes after that emergency call went out. Sit with that for a second. The distress call describes a vessel actively going down. The GPS says the vessel was still at the island for another half hour. Now, there are innocent explanations available. A boat with a failed bilge pump does not necessarily sink in 5 minutes, and you would absolutely stay put in shallow water near a beach rather than run for open water while taking on water. That is the sensible thing to do, but the point investigators have made publicly is simple and it is the right one. If the account does not match what the GPS shows, that is a problem that has to be resolved, and it has to be resolved by them, not by us. Then the alcohol angle enters, and I want to be precise here because this is where a lot of channels get reckless. A Marine Patrol email surfaced describing his alcohol intake that day as heavy. That is a description in a document, and toxicology will either support it or it will not. What I am not going to do is treat that as an explanation, because it is not one. Intoxication can help explain how somebody ends up in the water. It does not explain a body recovered on a shoreline 2 days later, and it certainly does not explain the findings that came out of the second examination. The response to that in this segment is blunt, and I think it is fair. He was not the only person out there drinking. You can see it in the photographs from that day. Most of that group was reportedly under 21, which raises its own question about who supplied it, and that was put on air as a direct question to a named individual. I am going to leave that exactly where it belongs, as an on-air question and not a finding, because there is a real difference between asking who bought the beer and asserting it, and the broader point stands regardless. Being drunk is not a forfeiture of anything. It does not transfer responsibility onto the person who died. Now, the part that actually changes the shape of this case. The initial position from investigators leaned towards accidental drowning, and it leaned that way early, before an autopsy was complete. His family never accepted it. They hired their own forensic pathologist, Dr. Roger Mitchell, and his independent examination reached a different conclusion. Not drowning, not homicide, undetermined. And according to the family's attorney, 2 things drove that. First, an area of discoloration on the back of the head, deep enough to sit beneath the skin, which has not been explained publicly. Second, and this is the one that matters enormously, the body that arrived for the second examination did not include the lungs or the throat. Let me be fair about that. because it is being reported in some places as if organs went missing. Organ retention after a first autopsy is normal practice. Tissue is kept for further study and it does not always travel back with the body. That is routine. But routine or not, the consequence is the same, and it is severe. Those are precisely the tissues you need to speak with any authority about drowning. Without them, a second opinion is working with one hand tied behind its back. You can describe what remains, you can note what you find, but you cannot confirm or exclude the thing everybody is arguing about. And here is where the forensic explanation offered in the segment is worth actually listening to, because it undercuts the confident version of every side of this argument, including the side I suspect most of you are on. Drowning is what is called a diagnosis of exclusion. That means you do not find drowning under a microscope. You arrive at it by ruling out everything else. You look at a body recovered from water and you check whether something else killed the person before the water did. If somebody is shot and then goes into the water, the gunshot is the cause of death, and the water is not on the certificate at all. If somebody is strangled and then goes into the water, the body will still take on water, but strangulation is the cause of death. Same with blunt force trauma. The water is the last thing that happened, not the thing that killed them. There is also a version that runs the other way. If somebody has a heart attack while swimming and takes on water because of it, the drowning is the cause of death, and the heart condition goes on the certificate as a contributing factor, because the water was the hostile environment that finished it. So the word drowning is doing a lot of quiet work. It is a conclusion about what could be excluded, not a positive finding standing on its own. Now apply that standard to this case. The body was not recovered for days. It was then examined twice. Decomposition was well underway by the time of the second examination, roughly 4 days after the first, even with refrigeration. And identifying trauma or natural disease is comparatively straightforward in a fresh body and genuinely difficult in a decomposed one. Which means the honest position, stated by a board-certified forensic pathologist looking at this from the outside, is that stating any cause of death definitively under these conditions is extremely unlikely. I want you to hear what that actually means, because it is not comfortable for anybody. It means the early confident announcement of drowning was made with more certainty than the circumstances could support. And it also means the confident online conclusion that this was obviously a homicide is being made with more certainty than the circumstances can support either. Undetermined is not a cover-up and it is not a verdict. Undetermined means the evidence available does not carry either answer. Those are two different failures, and only one of them is being talked about. So what is genuinely left unresolved? Sources with knowledge of the investigation have described evidence, including at least 2 witnesses, placing him on the island after that boat had already left. If that holds up under scrutiny, it supports the friend's account of the departure rather than contradicting it, which is worth saying out loud because that is not how it has been framed everywhere. What it does not do is explain the 30-minute gap between the distress call and the departure recorded by GPS. It does not explain the discoloration on the back of the head. It does not explain how a body ends up on a shoreline 2 days after that trip. And it does not explain the handling of the case around the edges, including a tip line call reportedly routed to a judge's office rather than the sheriff's department, and social media accounts reportedly cleared of content. Those last 2 are not evidence of a crime. They are evidence of a case being handled in a way that has destroyed public confidence in it, and unfortunately, those 2 things look identical from the outside. The family's lawyers are now using subpoenas to force the preservation of phone records and social media data from multiple tech companies.
Veteran criminal defense attorney. She is also a domestic violence expert and a registered nurse to boot. Marie, thank you for being with us tonight. Here's the deal. A lot has been made that Nolan Wells' family turned down an offer to have the boat searched with cadaver dogs, which, if they had hit on the boat, would suggest a dead body had been on the boat. Here is the fly in the ointment. It's not their boat. they can't give authority or permission or privilege for anybody to get on that boat and search the boat. So the fact that Crump's team didn't call back means nothing. They were not authorized to give authority or privilege or permission for anybody to board that boat, much less a cadaver dog or a scent dog.
You nailed it. And it's not his job or anybody else's to do what the police need to be investigating. After hearing that audio and knowing all the facts, they should be investigating this like it's a homicide and stop with the he say, she say from all of those kids on the boat who are presumed innocent at this moment, but I'm seeing and hearing guilt. Just off the fact that they even had his phone, that part. Why did you even have his telephone? I will never get over that, because even as an adult, my phone is my life. If I'm staying back doing anything, I'm staying with my phone. So they need to be investigating all of those kids, interviewing them piece by piece, one at a time. And I promise you, somebody's going to break and tell the truth here.
Joining me is Marie Pereira. You know, in any criminal investigation, the first thing you do is get all the parties, all of them, and you separate them, and you question them separately. You give them a waiver of their rights. They read it, they sign it, you read it out loud to them, you get all this on video, and you ask each one separately what happened before they have a chance to get together and talk. I'm not saying the friends are guilty. I'm not saying they're innocent. What I am saying is that would have been proper police procedure. For all we know, it did happen. It doesn't sound like it happened, but for all we know, it may have happened. The next thing you do is you ask them, would they willingly take a polygraph? Now, you and I, Marie Pereira, know that in a criminal case, polygraphs are not allowed into evidence unless they are stipulated, agreed to, before the polygraph is taken. It's the only way they come in. Now, in civil cases, they're allowed in. Think of O.J. Simpson. Didn't come in the criminal case, did come in the civil case, and P.S., he flunked it. That said, that's what you do. You separate them, you talk to them, you record it, you get their waiver of rights, you read their rights out loud on video, then you talk to them. Not hard. Next thing, you bring cadaver dogs and scent dogs on that boat. Now, scent dogs are going to hit on the boat anyway because they state Nolan was on the boat. So they're going to pick up Nolan's scent on that boat. Cadaver dog, whole nother story. And another thing, I would get a search warrant for it. You may not need a search warrant because a moving vehicle, as you know, Marie Pereira, under U.S. v. Carroll, that was the case that goes all the way back to moonshine days, bootleggers. If it's exigent circumstances, in other words, the evidence could leave. In that case, it was a car that was weighted down in the back. And the prohibitionists thought there was moonshine in it, and there was, and they stopped the car because the evidence would have been gotten rid of. Same thing with the boat. You may not even need a search warrant, but you could get one. That said, that should have been done day one. To Todd Terrell, President, Cajun Navy, you guys have at your access scent dogs and cadaver dogs. Do you believe, Todd, that any evidence of a body on that boat would still be detectable, even now?
Not speaking specifically in this case, but in past cases, we've had dogs detect body, blood and smell months and even years later. Our biggest thing was you got to eat this elephant one piece at a time. And if no one thought there was anything on that boat, they should be willing to allow dogs to go on the boat. So for us, it's a matter of it's another tool. It's a tool to use. Dogs aren't 100%, but these dogs are pretty damn close to it.
Joining me now is Elliot Connie out of Arlington, Texas, psychotherapist. He's author of Change Your Questions, Change Your Future. He's president and founder of the Solution Focused universe. He's a star of Family Therapy Podcast and upcoming The Elliot Connie Show. Elliot, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Both sides are so ready to jump on each other. I'm guessing, I don't know what Crump's thinking, but he did not have authority to release that boat. It's not his boat. That's like me telling you, Elliot, sure, go ahead, search Dave Mack's house. I don't care. You've got my permission. That's not my house. I can't give permission for you to go search it. So it's really simple.
That's absolutely right. It's really simple. I don't really understand so much of this. Like, people are, like you said, one side is going after the other instead of just accepting really logical things like the point that you're making here. Like, the family does not have the right to tell the other family what they can and cannot do with the boat, and other people are using that as evidence that there's something somehow wrong with what the family is saying, when all they really want is justice. And justice is the pursuit of truth. And it just seems to be triggering people in such an odd way that I, quite frankly, don't understand.
Guys, I want to circle back not only to the beginning of that MR, Mississippi Department Marine Research call. I want you to hear more, a different segment of that SEATOW, that's SEATOW call. Listen.
Right, looks like you're on Horn Island, correct? Are you
Yes,
on
we are
Horn
at Horn
Island?
Island. Yes.
All right, is the boat sinking or you have it aground?
We were sinking, yes.
Is it aground is the question?
No, we're not aground. We are in
Okay.
17 foot of water. We're in 31 foot of water.
All right, have to ask. What do you want to do? Do you want to be towed back?
I want to get this boat unsank and towed back, yes.
All right, where would you like it towed to, sir?
You can tow it to Ocean Springs Harbor, or Fort Bayou Launch.
You know, it just struck me. He's got reception. Why is everybody saying you can't make calls and you can't take pictures because there's no reception? He's out in the middle of the water at those coordinates and he's got reception. Remember that? Remember that, Alexis Tereszczuk, Crime Stories investigative reporter? We were told at the beginning that items were not deleted off Nolan Wells' phone, but he wasn't posting because there wasn't reception. But they're out in the middle of the water and they've got reception.
They do. He has really good reception, and you can hear it clearly throughout this call. But the stories maybe have changed a few times. First, it was he didn't have any reception. The other was, nobody took their phones on the island because you had to wade through some water to get to it. And they even said, this is salt water, not fresh water, as if that matters to your phone when you drop it into it. But there are videos from the island. Even some of his friends are in videos from the island. So people clearly had their phone. And the other friend was arguing when we're talking about the videos that people worry about that have said that it was him. His friend was seen in the video screaming, "Give me back my phone." The phones were there. Other kids had their phones.
Okay, but before I discount claims that Nolan did not have reception, I don't know what carrier he had. Maybe he didn't have reception. My point is, why everybody's screaming to shut this investigation down, I don't know, because these are very rudimentary facts that we don't have the answers to. He is talking about the boat taking on water. We are sinking. Come and get us. I want this boat unsank and towed back. But, interesting, we learn that very boat took multiple trips later that very same night.
So first, at 9:56 a.m., the boat leaves the original dock. It arrives at Horn Island at 11:14. So at around 4 o'clock, there is a call to the Coast Guard about the boat. NBC News got a hold of it.
We're sinking. Can you all please come?
And is everybody on board in good health otherwise?
Yeah, everybody's on board.
Everybody's on board. So does that mean Nolan is on there? Who was on that boat? At 4:31, the boat leaves Horn Island and it is towed approximately 3 miles, and then the tow ends. So after 3 miles, they go back to the original dock, okay? They arrive at 5:44 p.m. So it looks like this is where Horn Island is, and this is where the original dock is that I am referring to. I looked it up, and El Camino Real Road is in Gulf Hills, Mississippi, which is right above Ocean Springs. So I'm wondering if this is the house where they got the phone. Now, the boat travels to Fort Bayou. At 6:06, the boat returns to the original dock. Then, from the original dock, the boat goes back to Fort Bayou, and then they go to the boat launch, and it is put onto the trailer and moved by the vehicle. Did they drop people off at the original dock, travel to Fort Bayou, pick somebody up, and go back to that original dock? And then from there, why was there an hour and 13-minute time gap? This boat was sinking hours before, and then they're just having it docked for an hour and 13 minutes. You would think they'd want to get that boat out of the water.
That is the correct move, and frankly, it should not have required lawyers. Digital evidence is the most perishable evidence there is. Every week that passes, retention windows close, and data that was recoverable becomes data that is gone. The state autopsy is reportedly complete, and the results have not been made public. Until they are, everything anybody says about cause of death, including the confident version and the skeptical version, is provisional. Which brings me to what I actually think, and I will give it to you plainly. I do not know what happened to Nolan Wells. Neither do you. Neither does anybody making thumbnails about it. What I know is that a young man went to an island on the 4th of July and did not come home, and the institutions responsible for answering how reached for the simplest available answer before they had the evidence to support it. That single decision created everything that followed. It created the family's distrust. It created the vacuum. And a vacuum in a case like this does not stay empty. It fills with enhanced audio and background voices and theories, some of which might turn out to be right, most of which will not, and almost none of which would have taken hold if the original answer had been given carefully. That is not the internet's failure. That is the failure of a process that announced a conclusion before it earned one, and then found itself defending that conclusion instead of following the evidence. When a state's governor is publicly attacking the credibility of a family's attorney, and the family is holding press conferences with their own pathologist because they do not trust the official one, the investigation has already lost the thing it cannot do this job without, which is public confidence. And that is recoverable, but only one way. Release the state autopsy, explain the discoloration, explain the timeline gap, have the original audio examined by a qualified forensic analyst, and publish what they find, whatever it says. Because here is the thing I keep coming back to. His mother said she cannot rest until there are answers, and that they are begging anyone who knows anything to call the hotline. That is not a woman chasing a conspiracy. That is a parent who was handed a conclusion instead of an explanation and could tell the difference. Every question in this case exists because that gap was never closed. I will keep following this, and I will update the moment the state results are released. And if they contradict anything I have said here, I will say so on camera. Because the point is not to be right about the theory. The point is that a family gets a real answer, and that whatever that answer turns out to be, it is one that can actually be defended by the evidence.